Okay, the meeting recording is in progress.
Madam Committee Chairwoman, ready to start when you are.
Okay, is that for me to get started with the Finance Committee?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Ann.
All right, thank you. Sorry. Hi, this is Ann O'Gorick, and you won't be able to see me. I don't have a webcam this morning, but I'd like to call the Finance Committee to order. The first agenda item is approval of our meeting minutes from our last meeting, which was February 20th. And so when I ask for a motion for something, if you could please say your name and then your motion so that the person recording and taking the minutes can record that. And then when I ask for a vote, if you could, in some orderly fashion, one at a time, give your name and your vote as well. We'll try and do that and see how it goes. Okay, so if everyone had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes, do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
Jen Liptak, yes. Motion to approve.
Okay, do I have a second?
Austin Davis.
Okay, and could I have a vote then? Could each member give your vote to approve them?
Jeff Letwin approved.
Austin Davis approved.
Jeff Letwin approved.
Austin Davis approved.
Jen Liptak approved.
Okay,
Jen
thank
Liptak
you.
approved.
Okay. Thank you. All right, the meeting minutes are approved.
All right, meeting minutes are approved. Okay.
All right, the next agenda item, I'll turn it over to Pete.
The next agenda item, I'll turn it over to Pete.
Wait a second, Ann, sorry, but Ed, can you mute? Wait a second, Ann, and Deb Skillings, can you? Ed, can you?
Why is there not a forced mute?
I'm leaving myself on,
Not a forced
but
mute.
I'm having a problem.
I'm leaving myself on.
All right, do we want to try again? Pete, are you ready?
Yes. Can you see me? Can you hear me? All right. The first, this is a resolution requesting authorization to appoint a new record keeper for the Port Authority's 457B and 401A, which is collectively known as the Defined Contribution Program. I should note at the outset that there are no Port Authority funds associated with this. What this is that we have a record keeper for our non-represented police and IBW employees who are participate in either the 457B or the 401A defined contribution program. In conjunction with our chief investment officers, Marquette Associates, and Financial Integrity Resources Management, also known as the firm, there was a RFP that was developed in order to identify qualified companies, provide the record keeping and administrative services for the defined contribution program. 6 responses were received by the deadline of November 15th, 2019. The authority convened a selection committee made up of members of the Human Resource and Finance divisions in consultation with our chief investment officers. We reviewed those 6 proposals and shortlisted down to 2 proposals, one by one America, the other by ICMA Retirement Services. And then we convened a second meeting on February 3rd, 2020, where we conducted interviews of One America and ICMA. And after those interviews were conducted, we evaluated, and it was determined that ICMA was the highest rated record keeper. Should be noted that ICMA is currently the record keeper for the Amalgamated Transit Union employees as well. And as part of this, it is anticipated that the employee will save about 50 basis points a year in administrative fees, about 0.5% savings to each employee by moving over to ICMA. Are there any questions on this resolution?
I do not have any. So if no one else has any questions, do I have a motion to send this resolution to the board next Friday?
Jen Liptak, so moved.
Do I have a second?
Austin Davis, a second.
Okay. And we'll vote then. If I could have you all vote yay or nay.
Jeff Letwin's a yay.
Jen Liptak, yay.
Austin Davis is a yay.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes. And so our next agenda item, Pete, is a review of the February and March 2020 financial statements.
All right. So if you could turn your attention to page 2 of the 4 schedules that are included for the February financial statements. So pre-COVID-19 in February, our total operating income was about $630,780 ahead of plan, and that was predominantly due to higher advertising revenue and interest income. From an expense perspective, for the month of February, we were $2.1 million under budget, principally due to lower employee benefits, purchase services, and access expense. And on a year-to-date basis, we were about $21.1 million under budget due to lower expenses across all categories. From a subsidy perspective, at the end of February, we were about $10 million ahead of plan, and that was principally due to higher general state operating assistance. That's just a timing issue that will normalize by the end of the year. Any questions on that schedule?
No.
Okay. So if you could turn your attention to page 3, which is the year over year, this is, once again, it's still February. So total operating income was $367,453 above last fiscal year through February. And that was due, once again, to higher advertising revenue and interest income. From a total expense perspective, at the end of February, year over year, we were about $1.5 million higher than the previous fiscal year due to higher employee benefits. Our subsidies at the end of February were $3.1 million lower than the previous fiscal year. That was due to using less preventive maintenance in the fiscal 20 budget versus the fiscal 19 budget. Any questions on that particular slide? Okay, hearing none. So our reserves at the end of February, we we started out with about $141.3 million, and by the end of February, we were at about $153.7 million. Any questions on that schedule? All right.
No, thank you.
Okay, so now we are going to look at the March results. And this would, once again, we'll start with page 2 of the 4 exhibits for the March. So our total operating income at the end of March was about $860,000 below budget on a year-to-date basis, and for the month we were about $1.5 million lower in total operating income for March. I should note that about $2.3 million of that revenue that was received in March was actually for items that were invoiced in February. So while we were only down about $1.5 million, when you factor in that $2.3 million of that was really for activity from the prior month, you can see that we're down. Would be down close to $3.7, $3.8 million when you take out that $2.3 million in prior month activity. Our total expenses for the month were $1.9 million under, and we still, from an expense perspective for the year, are quite favorable by about $23 million, primarily due to lower employee benefits and other expenses. Our subsidies are still over $10 million above plan. And once again, that is primarily due to state operating assistance being received earlier than anticipated. Any questions on that particular exhibit? All right.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Hearing none, if you could turn your attention to page 3 of the March exhibits. So from a year-over-year perspective, we are down about $1 million in total operating income. From a total expense perspective, we're $4.8 million higher than last fiscal year due to higher wages and salaries and employee benefits. And from a subsidy perspective, we're about $8.6 million lower the previous fiscal year, and that's due to the lower preventive maintenance. Any questions on that exhibit? So from an operating reserve perspective, which is page 4, we started the month of March with $153.7 million. We received about $35.2 million in revenues and operating grants. We utilized $38.5 million in operating reserves during the month. So we still have reserves of over $150 million at the end of March. So any questions on the finances?
I'm good, thank you.
All right.
Hey, this is Jen. So I just wanted to ask or just clarify that these financials do not reflect any impact from the pandemic at this time, because some of the revenues are probably from prior months. Is that correct, Pete? And I'm sorry if you already said that.
Yeah. On for March, we would have had like 2 weeks of impact, and really we were down from an operating income perspective by a little over $1 million. But really, 2.3 of that operating income was from February. So when you take that out of the equation, we would have probably been over $3 million negative. And what we're seeing from a passenger revenue perspective, just last week, in fact, we only had about $20,000 in operating income, passenger revenue. In the year previous, we had $1.2 million. So you're definitely going to see it in the April financial statements.
And those projections you're making right now, so we should see that beginning in the April, but we're really not going to have a full understanding until probably the May statement. Is that correct?
Yeah, you'll definitely see more of the impact next month, and then you should see the full, impact in May. But April.
So based upon that information, has the Port Authority done projections? I know there's been some numbers out there, but I imagine so. The Port Authority has done projections based upon what they anticipate from ridership and some of the other information that's happening, increased expenses for PPE, cleaning, etc. Have you done projections for the end of the year to make a guesstimate at this point as to what the deficit will be or the overage will be within the expenditure category? So deficit, revenue, overture, and expenditure.
Yes, and we're also looking at how the CARE funding will factor into that. To make up some of the difference on the revenue side.
Okay, so we can anticipate we'd have more information at the May board meeting regarding with the April statements. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, in fact, at the May meeting, we could even provide like a projection what we think fiscal 2020 will look like. Fortunately, we're doing well on the expense side, so I think that'll negate some of or offset some of the anticipated substantial losses on the revenue side.
Hey, Peter.
That'd be helpful. Go ahead. I apologize.
No, we can
go ahead. Hey, Pete, it's John Tagg. Can you talk a little bit about the quote-unquote stimulus dollars that we're supposed to get from the feds?
Yeah, so the amount that we received is $141.7 million. And really, there's no time limitation associated with that. So we can make the grants, go 3 or 4 years. But just looking at the passenger revenue data recently, I would say that's where we're going to see our greatest impact. Normally we would bring in $7 to $8 million a month passenger revenue, and I would say that at least based on the last week, we could that could definitely be closer to like $500,000 for a monthly basis. So. But we do have schedules set up where we are collecting our cleaning supply expense, our cleaning overtime expense, call off expense, and that's all part of a model that we've developed. And a lot of it will depend on just the duration of the pandemic and as to what the monthly and annual impact ultimately be.
But those federal dollars have to be allocated to anything that the pandemic has affected, right? Is that true?
Yeah, that's
those dollars have. In other words, there's record keeping requirements that we have to demonstrate that money.
Yeah, because it would ultimately, I think, come through probably as part of the triennial review or something like that. Where they're going to obviously audit to make sure that you have justification drawdown. So the
reason I asked that is because the question came up on the ACTC call the other morning about how the money is going to be spent, and so I just that's why I wanted you to address it to the board.
Yeah. So right now the funds would be used to continue to provide service.
Thank you, Pete.
Any other questions I can answer?
Okay. Thank you, Pete, for the update. That's all we have on today's agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Austin Davis, so moved.
And a second? Okay, and do I have a vote then to approve that we adjourn?
Aye.
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 Thank you, everyone, for participating today. I really appreciate it. And we look forward to hearing more information next month.
Thanks, Ann. Good morning, everyone. This is Michelle Smianik. We're going to move forward to the Performance Oversight Committee meeting. So our first item of business this morning is approval of minutes for our February 20th, 2020. And so if I could get approval, a motion to approve, that would be terrific. Thank you.
This is Lori Magorski. Motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
1 second.
Great. Thank you. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, approval of our February 2020 minutes. Our proposed resolutions this morning, we have 7. The first one is awarding of bids, Mr. Tony Trona. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. I have 10 items for your review and presentation to the full board for approval. All of the bid items were publicly advertised and our documents were distributed accordingly. The first item is equipment cleaner. We had 5 firms accept the invitation. 3 bids were received for this equipment cleaner that's used in the maintenance of the authority's coach fleet over a 2-year period. Lowest bidders submitted products were not in compliance with our specifications, therefore not eligible for award. So our recommendation that the contract be awarded to the low responsive bidder, Kimco Distributing Corporation, estimated amount of $980,400. This price represents a 12% decrease over the previous contracted price for these items 2 years ago. A lot of safety requirements in this particular product. The 2 low bidders failed to comply with the specifications. The price difference from the low bidder to the award is $249,000. Number 2, cleaning solvent service. 2 firms accepted the invitation. 2 bids were received for this cleaning solvent service over a 3-year period. It's our recommendation that the contract be awarded to Safety Clean Corporation, estimated amount of $449,400.50. This price represents a 1% increase from the previous contract for these items 2 years ago. Number 3, 115-pound steel rail. We had 6 firms accept the invitation. 6 bids were received for this rail that maintains our light rail transit system. So our recommendation that the contract be awarded to LB Foster Company, estimated amount of $105,249. This price represents a 15% decrease. Number 4, janitorial supplies, paper. 6 firms accepted the invitation. 4 bids were received for the purchase of these supplies over a 3-year period. Our recommendation that WB Mason in the estimated amount of $494,672.06 be awarded the contract. This price represents a 23% decrease from the previous contracted price for these items 2 years ago. Number 5 is brake drums, coach. At our February 2000 meeting, the board authorized a contract for award of 1 item to Southern Coach Parts and the estimated amount of $119,160. This firm has since indicated they're unable to provide the performance bond that is required by the bid documents and therefore unable to proceed with the contract execution. The second low bidder was Midwest Bus Corporation. Their bid was found to meet the requirements for the purchase over a 2-year period. So it's our recommendation that the contract awarded to Southern Coach Parts be rescinded and a contract be awarded to the next responsible bidder, which was Midwest Bus Corporation, and the estimated amount of $119,310. The price represents a 7% increase from the previous contract for these items 2 years ago. The difference between those two companies in their pricing was about $150. Number 6, asbestos-free brake blocks assembled on shoes. 2 firms accepted the invitation. 2 bids were received for the purchase of these shoes over a 2-year period. It's our recommendation that the contract be awarded to the low responsible bidder, which was Keystone Spring Service, and the estimated amount of $421,422.50. This price represents a 36% increase from the previous contracted price for these items 2 years ago. 2 years ago, our current vendor, their bid came in 42% less than the other competitors at that time. They erred in their pricing. We were able to take advantage of below market pricing at the time. However, this pricing is in line with the market. Number 7, biodiesel fuel. 2 firms received our documents. 2 bids were received for the purchase of this fuel over a 1-year period with an optional 1-year period. It's our recommendation that the contract be awarded to the low responsible bidder, which was Gutman Energy, estimated amount of $12,729,600. The contractor's proposed fixed rate, which is the contract adder for overhead freight profit margin, is 0.0698 per gallon, which is a 12% decrease from the previous contracted price of 0.0795 per gallon. The staff has determined that the pricing is fair and reasonable. Our current contract expires December 31 of 2020. We want an award on this contract now in order for us to take advantage of the low market price of fuel in the futures market. So by awarding this now, it gives us the opportunity to go out into the futures market and buy fuel for the year 2021, beginning in January through July, to take advantage of the low prices. Number 8, coach radiator assemblies. 5 firms accepted the invitation. 3 bids were received for these radiator assemblies. Our recommendation that we award to the low responsible bidders, which was Gillig, 2 items for the estimated amount of $504,849. Kirk Automotive, 1 item, estimated amount of $137,940. Aftermarket parts, estimated amount of $201,350. There's been no previous purchase of these radiator assemblies. However, the staff has determined the price to be fair and reasonable. Number 9, testing and validation services. 5 firms accepted our invitation. 2 bids were received for these services used for employee position assessments over a 5-year period. The low bidder submitted a price in their own terms and conditions which were not in compliance with the specifications and therefore not eligible for award. It's our recommendation that the contract be awarded to Catalyst Connection, estimated amount of $298,000. This price represents a 7% decrease from the previous contract price for these items 5 years ago. The low bidder, the difference between the low bidder and our recommended award is $140,000. There was a laundry list of items that they did not comply with in our specification. Number 10, LRV air supply unit inverters. 4 firms accepted the invitation. 4 bids were received for these inverters over a 19-month period. So our recommendation is that the contract be awarded to the low responsible bidder, which was Wogen IS America, estimated amount $1,030,820. We haven't purchased these items. The staff has determined that the price was fair and reasonable. That completes my report. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Trona. If there are no questions, then I would ask for a motion to move.
Hey, Michelle.
forward.
Hey, Michelle.
Yes, John.
Michelle. Yeah, just hold on a second. I had myself on mute, which people probably like. Hey, a question is really more of a general question, Tony. If there's something that's COVID-19 related, are we able to suspend the process of awarding bids in the normal process, or are we still going to try to follow that as best we can?
COVID-19 products, we have an emergency procurement notification that we're going under guidelines of emergency procurement.
Okay. Thank you.
Good morning, John. Just to add to Tony's comment, yeah, we had per the governor's emergency proclamation issued on March 6th, which specifically authorized agencies to waive their state procurement requirements and cited to the emergency procurement provisions in the PA procurement code. We followed our limits of authority. We had a memo issued under Catherine's signature, and I approved as agency counsel, authorizing temporary emergency procurements for PPE and other supplies related to COVID. And those are, as we make those acquisitions, we'll provide the board monthly information on that. But yes, we do have a emergency procurement in place right now to help us move quickly to buy those supplies.
And that includes toilet paper, huh?
I guess nowadays it would. Yes, Mr. Day.
Okay, do we have any other questions? If there are no other questions for the board members, then I would ask for a motion to move this forward to the full board meeting. As you make a motion, as we vote, just state your name for the record and whether your vote is aye, nay, or abstain. Thank you. So could I have?
Lori Mizgorski.
Jeff Letwood moves to approve.
Second the motion and.
Go ahead, Laura.
Oh, okay. I said second the motion and yay.
Thank you.
Yay.
I vote aye, Michelle. And do we have Austin on the phone still?
Yes, I vote yes.
Thank you.
Jen Liptak, yes.
Thank you. Motion carries moving forward to the full board meeting. So thank you. Item B is our authorization by Mr. Keith Wargo to extend and amend agreements to provide general architecture and engineering contract services. Good morning, Mr. Wargo.
Good morning. I have 3 resolutions for your consideration this morning. All 3 involve amending existing professional services contracts. Before I get into the specific resolutions, I wanted to give you some context or background on the first 2 resolutions. You might remember, as a result of the truckers litigation, that the authority had placed various capital projects on hold, but as a result of dismissal of those litigation, the funds have now been released. The authority wants to proceed with those projects. However, we're approaching contractual limits on several of these contracts, and we need to increase the authorization in order to complete the project, as well as provide contingency dollars in case something comes up in the meantime. I would alert you that we are working on developing new RFPs for the services and seeking authorization to enter into new agreements either late this year or early next year. And once those agreements are in place, we would utilize those new firms to complete the work, and the existing firms will continue with finishing up their designs as well as construction phase services. So now moving to the specific resolutions. In May 2017, the board authorized the award of agreements to Gannett Fleming, Inc., an AECOM Technical Services to provide general architectural engineering contracting services in 2 categories: roadway and site work design and building and structures designs. The agreements are for initial term of 4 years through June 30th, 2021, and not to exceed amount of $6 million, with the option to extend up to 2 years at the authority's discretion.
Go ahead. Oh, sorry.
What you see on the slide there is what we've done thus far. We completed 28 projects at about $5.6 million, and the anticipated projects we have listed there, the first 3 are continuation designs. The bulk of the rest of those are construction phase services, and the last one is just some reserve funding in case we see something in the meantime that we need to do design services on before we get new contracts under award. Thank you. For those reasons, the authority has determined that it's in its best interest to increase the total not to exceed amount of the agreement by $1,750,000 and to extend the term of the agreement this time to June 30th, 2022. I would note that the services have been completed satisfactorily. If there are no questions, I therefore respectfully request the Performance Oversight Committee recommend approval of this resolution to the full board, authorizing the amendments to the agreements to extend the term through June 30th, 2022, and increase the contract amount from $6 million to $7,750,000.
Thank you, Keith. Are there any questions on this first resolution from the board? Hearing no questions, I would ask for a motion to move this forward to the full board next week.
So moved, Letwin.
Do I hear a second?
Second,
Lori
Austin.
McGo-
Thank you. And please may I have your name and your vote?
Lori Mizgorski, yes.
Jen Liptak, yes.
Michelle, I vote yes. All right, having no, is there someone else voting? Go ahead. All right, motion carries. We're
Thank
going to
you.
move this resolution forward. Keith, if you could continue with item C, authorization to extend and amend agreements to provide architectural design services.
Thank you. In July 2016, the board authorized awarding agreements to CDM Smith Inc. and Whitman Rolk Associates LLD to provide architectural design services, 2 categories: transit passenger facilities design and general building design. Agreements were for an initial term of 4 years through September 30th, 2020, and the total not to exceed the amount of $6 million, with the option to extend the agreements up to 1 year at the authority's discretion. Again, if you look at the slide, you will see 35 or have other in 35 under contract for $5.8 million. These are the anticipated projects we look forward to moving until we get a new consultant on board. To date, the services have been completed satisfactorily. And the authority has determined that it's in its best interest to extend the terms of the agreement to September 30th, 2021, and to increase the not to exceed amount by $1.5 million. Any questions on this resolution?
I have none. Any members have any questions for Mr. Wargo on this resolution?
No.
May I have a motion to move this forward to the board?
Lori Mizgorski, so moved.
Do I have a
Letwin,
second?
second.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. And please now, if you would vote. This is Michelle and I vote aye. Move it forward.
Wetlands and I.
Lori, Lori,
Check,
yes.
yes.
Austin Davis is a yes.
Okay, great. Hearing approval of this, it moves forward to the board meeting. Keith, if you would continue with authorization, item D, to extend agreement to provide environmental contract services, please.
Thank you. This final resolution seeks approval to amend an existing environmental services contract by exercising the option year to maintain environmental compliance efforts. In May 2017, the board authorized the award of an agreement to Hatch Associates Consulting, Inc., formerly known as Hatch Chester, Inc., to perform environmental contract services. The agreement was for an initial term of 3 years, June 30th, 2020, a total not to exceed amount of $600,000 with the option to extend the agreement up to 2 additional years. Again, if you look at the slide, we've completed 10 work orders with this consultant at approximately $390,000. To date, the services have been completed satisfactorily. The authority has determined it's in its best interest to extend the term of the agreement this time, June 30th, 2021, to continue the services on the current and future projects with no increase in the authorized total not to exceed amount. I therefore respectfully request the Performance Oversight Committee recommend approval of this resolution.
Thank you. Thank you, Keith. Any questions for Mr. Wargo on this item? Hearing none, may I have a motion to move this forward to the full board meeting?
So moved, Jeff.
Austin Davis, second.
Great. Now, if you would please vote. This is Michelle. I vote aye to move it forward.
Austin Davis, aye.
Lori Mizgorski, aye.
Jen Liptak, aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Wargo. Moving on to item E with Ms. Inez Colon. Authorization to extend and amend agreement to provide employee benefits services. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, and good morning, Chair. The purpose of this resolution is to extend the term of the agreement number R1507 with Towers Watson Delaware Incorporated, now known as Willis Towers Watson, for an additional 5 months and to increase the total not to exceed amount to $240,000. And the reason why we're requesting this is in order to continue the services that this vendor provides with respect to healthcare insurance providers. And we need this information because we're in the process of negotiating with 2 of our major unions. Moreover, our healthcare provider agreements expire at the end of the year. So the attached resolution authorizes the amendment to extend terms of this agreement by 5 months, primarily because Willis Towers Watson's contract expires in July, and we would like it to continue to December 30th, 2020, and also to increase the previously authorized amount from 1.7 to 1,940,000. Therefore, there's continuance in their services as we negotiate with our 2 unions within the authority. Are there any questions? Then I respectfully request that this resolution be presented to the full board.
Thank you, Ms. Colon. If there are no questions, may I have a motion to move this forward?
Austin Davis, so moved.
Jeff Letwin, seconds.
Thank you.
And now if we have your votes, this is Michelle. I vote aye to move it forward.
Jeff said aye.
Lori, aye.
Anyone else? All right, motion carries, moving it forward to the full board. Moving forward to item F with Mike Cetra, authorization to enter into an agreement for South Hills Village Parking Garage Facility Management Services. Good morning, how are you doing, Mike?
Good morning, Madam Committee Chairwoman and committee members. This resolution would authorize Port Authority to enter into an agreement for facility management services at the South Hills Village Garage. The South Hills Village Parking Garage is a 7-story, 2,200 parking space parking structure located adjacent to Port Authority's South Hills Village T Station in Bethel Park. In February of this year, Port Authority issued RFP number 2002, 2002 seeking qualified firms to provide the facility management services at the garage. These services include day-to-day operation of the garage, on-site and remote customer assistance and support, general cleaning and routine inspections, and due to the parking equipment in the garage being approximately 15 years old, also included an option to acquire new parking access revenue control system equipment, including with options to be able to utilize your cell phones, potentially be able to utilize your Connect cards to get in and out of the garage. On February 24th, 2020, which was the due date for proposals, Port Authority received 4 proposals, which were evaluated by a staff evaluation committee. Parkway Corporation and Pro Park Inc. were shortlisted for interviews, and following those interviews and final evaluations, Parkway Corporation was identified as the highest rated proposer. There are detailed information in the summary of this resolution in your packets regarding the evaluations of the 2 shortlisted firms, but basically Parkway had a proven experience record managing the garage, a strong project team that has included meaningful DB firm participation via all-purpose cleaning that provides cleaning services at the garage, and the lowest overall proposed costs for continued management of the facility, including those costs for new parking equipment and software. The proposed agreement with Parkway will be for an initial period of 3 years, with 2 option years to be exercised at a Port Authority's sole discretion, and a total not to exceed amount of $672,000. Subject to any questions members may have, I would respectfully request that the Performance Oversight Committee recommend this resolution to the full board for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Cetra. Any questions for Mr. Cetra regarding this?
Thank you, Michelle. It's John. I noticed, hey, Mike, you're talking a lot slower.
That's because the mask I've been wearing is cutting off some of my oxygen, John.
All right, hearing no other questions or comments, could I have a motion to move this forward to the full board, please?
Wetland, so moved.
I'm going to second this motion, and I'm going to vote aye on the motion.
Austin Davis, aye.
Lori Mizgorski, aye.
Jen Liptak, aye.
Great, thank you. Motion carries, moving forward to the full board.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Moving forward to our final resolution of the morning with Mr. Pete Schenk. Authorization to extend and amend agreement to provide armored car and cash management services. Good morning, Mr. Schenk.
Good morning again. Back in October of 2016, Port Authority, in accordance with the board-adopted procurement policy procedures, offered an RFP for to provide armored car and cash management services. So the types of services that are provided by this contractor are that they collect the coin and currency that come in through the fare boxes and then ultimately get deposited at the bus garages and also at the rail center. So once it's collected, they take that cash and currency and they count it, deposit it in our banks. In addition, another service that's provided is that they place the consumables at the ticket vending machines. So if they run low on Connect cards, or if they run low on tickets, they go out and put in new stock. In January of 2017, the board authorized the award to Brinks USA to provide these services for a 3-year term and a not to exceed amount of $3.5 million. And the agreement also contained 2 additional option years that were to be exercised at the authority's sole discretion. To date, the services provided by Brinks have been satisfactory. The authority has determined that it's in the best interest to exercise the first option year with Brinks, which would extend the agreement to May 4th, 2021, and increase the amount by $768,600. So the attached resolution authorizes amendment to that agreement to exercise the adoption, to extend the agreement to May 4th, 2021, to increase the not to exceed amount $3.5 million to $4,268,600. Any questions?
Hey, and Michelle, Pete, this includes does this include the collection of money from the service center downtown?
Yes, the service center. Yeah, I was mentioning.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. And the other thing of it is, but our cash is down, right? In other words, we're not, because of the Connect card, we're not collecting as much cash, or
So
is that?
this is a fee for service. So if there's less cash being collected, which there is, then we would not call them out as often. And then there's also a fee based on the counting of the cash per $1,000. So there would be lower total expense since we're bringing in less cash on a daily basis. So yeah, things continued as they are. We would not spend anywhere near that $768,000.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Pete. I thought that was the case, but I just wanted to clarify. That's all.
Thank you. That was a great clarification on that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay, having no other questions for Mr. Shank, may I have a motion to move this forward to the full board, please?
Lori Mizgorski, so moved.
And I second.
And this is Michelle. I'm going to move it forward.
And this is Austin Davis.
Jeff Guy. Lori, yes.
Great, thank you. So the motion carries and moves forward to the full board next week.
Thanks so much.
My next item on the agenda is adjournment. So if there are no other questions or comments at this point, I'm going to call for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Hey, Michelle, John,
Yes.
I have a question of Jeff Letwin. How's the view?
From where? From my desk in my house. It's great.
You have such a spectacular view from your office. That's why I asked that question.
Trust me, I miss it.
Thank you.
Great. Any other comments? All right, here is nothing else. Request a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Great. All in favor, say aye. Thank you. Performance Oversight Committee stands in adjournment. Thank you, everyone.